So now that we know what SVGs are, when to use them, and how to create them, we need to know how to use them. SVGs can be used in a handful of different ways. They can be referenced externally with an image tag or added as a CSS background. They can be embedded using an embed tag, object tag, or using an iframe. And finally, their code can be inserted directly in line within our markup. SVGs are little more than XML instructions on how our graphics should look. And this means that their contents can be inserted directly within an HTML5 document. So let's take a look at some examples of the different methods. First up, referencing them externally using an image tag. Let's take a look at the graphic that we created earlier. So as we noticed in that example earlier, it's simply XML code. Since we used Adobe Illustrator to create it, we see this comment here that Illustrator automatically adds. Next, we have the SVG doc type that's needed to provide well-formed XML structure. Then we have the SVG element, which contains all of our vector shapes and paths. So we add this to our images folder within our site, and then add an image tag with the source referencing our SVG. Pretty straightforward, nothing new really. And as we can see, it works exactly as we would expect it to, the same as any other image format we've used in the past. Next, let's take a look at embedding using the embed tag. First, we need to add an embed tag to our document. Then we need a source, just as we would with an image tag. And like an image tag, this source will reference the SVG in the file system. We also need a type of image/SVG plus XML to let the embed know what type of file we are embedding. Next up, using an object tag. First, we need to add an object tag into our document. Then we need a data attribute containing the path to the SVG. Like the embed, we need a type of image/SVG plus XML to let the object tag know what type of file we're using. Object works great because we are still able to manipulate the SVG with CSS and JavaScript, but the code for the graphic remains separated out into its own location. Also, a fallback image can be set directly within the object tag itself, so browsers that don't support it will automatically render that image. Next, using an iframe. First, we need to add an iframe into our document with the height and width of our image. And we want to disable scrolling. Then we need to hide the ugly border. Like the object tag, we can add a fallback image directly within the iframe for browsers that don't support SVGs. Lastly, we can add SVG code inline. We can simply copy the contents of our SVG minus the XML declaration and doc type and paste it directly into our document. This is great because all the SVG elements are available for us to manipulate by hand or with CSS or with JavaScript for each individual instance. It also cuts down on HTTP requests because the graphics are embedded in the document. Thus, the client doesn't need to request anything extra from the web server. One drawback, however, is that it can make the source code a little messy, depending upon the graphic being used, and it will increase file size because there's more code in the page.